Be a video on how to do your power steering gearbox in a early 90s E150 van. Now the F-150s and the Explorers and the Broncos this time have the same box, so it's a very similar procedure. So first thing you have to do is open up the hood, go in here. This is a 92 E150 with a 5.0. Now down here you can see the gearbox. This is the gearbox. The first thing that you have to do is take the shaft off of the gearbox. So your steering column here, and there's a little bolt there, and you take that bolt off. It's a 13 millimeter. Right here, you take it off so that you can get the shaft out. What I like to do is see where the bolt came out right in the middle, and you stick like a chisel or something, or a flathead screwdriver in this slot, and you hit it with a hammer to open that up a little bit, because later when you take the gearbox out, this is going to slip out nice and easy. It's not going to be terribly hard to get out. Next thing that you're going to want to do is go underneath here. This gearbox is very accessible. You don't need a jack or anything. So here's the gearbox. This is the box. This is the whole box right here, and this is a pitman arm. So the very next thing that you're going to have to do is take this bolt out of the pitman arm and take the arm off, because we're going to leave this nut on here, and when the pitman arm, when the whole gearbox is out, then we're going to take the arm off of the gearbox. But for now, you take this bolt off, and then it really helps to have a pitman arm tool or something here, so you can get in there and pull these two apart, because once you get this bolt out, it's not necessarily gonna pop out. You might be able to hit this with a hammer and get it to pop out. You hit it right on the side here with a hammer, you might be able to get it to pop out, but really the best thing to do is to go get a pitman arm tool or a ball joint separator, and you know, it'll make it a whole lot easier on you. Arm not off. For anybody who wants to know, it was a 13/16. That's what size worked for me. Kind of a big one. And what I like to do, if you don't have a pitman, arm or a ball joint separator, I like to hit right here with the biggest hammer that I got. Just give it some nice slams, and you don't have to worry about the pitman arm. Pitman arms are very strong, and you don't have to worry about this old gearbox because it's broken. And so I just give it a whale. Sometimes just tapping it works. Sometimes you have to really wail on it, but most times it'll pop out. And if it doesn't, you can get a puller from AutoZone or something. You can even rent them, and they don't even charge anything to rent them. So I was just beating the crap out of that with a hammer. It didn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up top. I'm going to take the lines off, and then I'm going to unbolt this. Now this thing unbolts from here. There's these three bolts. 1, 2, 3. And it unbolts the gearbox. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, and there's the two lines that go into the gearbox. You just take those off. If you want to stick like a piece of a rubber glove in there to keep the power steering fluid from flowing out, do that. I let it flow out just because I want to get all clean fluid in there, you know, and flush out the system. So I let it drip out of there as I'm working. So the next step is to take these two lines off. Leaking out very nicely. Both of those lines are undone. We don't want to take out these three bolts, and that's going to take the gearbox away from the frame, so you'll have a lot of play, and hopefully you can knock this off with a hammer. If you can't, like I said, man, get a puller, and make sure that the crevice on the one on the top that's going into the steering column is opened up so that this will fall down. Off of the top, the pitman arm is off. Now what I did was I took 3 of these bolts, I loosened them all, I left 1 in, I took the 2 out, and then this whole thing will move. This whole thing will move with this arm too. This entire thing moves everything. And what I did was I hit the pitman arm right here. I just kept hitting it, kept hitting it, kept hitting it, and it popped out. So that's okay. When you do this, man, check your pitman arm, see if it's okay. If it takes a little bit of tension to get this thing to move, then you should be good. But if it's loose and you can just push it back and forth, then replace it, man. And if you break this boot, it's always a good idea to go buy a new one. You can buy these in the help section of like any AutoZone, Pep Boys, and all that. It's just a like a tie rod end boot or a ball joint boot, you know. So buy those because you don't want your seals. Everything is going to dry out and you're going to be pretty sad. So now the last thing I'm going to do is take this bolt out. This whole thing is going to drop down. Now if it's still caught up, it's just caught up on the steering column up there, and you kind of just give it a little tap with a hammer and it's going to go. But be careful of this thing because it is really heavy. And if it falls on your hand, man, you might break your fingers or something, so just be careful. Pitman off on this side. So there's this one big nut here. I used a big crescent wrench to get to it because I don't have any regular wrenches that size. And you just spin this off, and then it's going to be the same thing from the other side. You're going to have to beat it off with a hammer if you want to do that. Or these ones are really rough. I mean, this is tougher than the other side. So I'm gonna use a pulley puller, and I should be able to get that off. Be careful not to turn it, because if you turn this whole thing, you're turning the whole thing. And then when you put your other one on, it's not gonna be so great. Just make sure you know where this thing is. Kind of mark it on there where it was. Put a line on the side all the way down so that you could tell where it was, so you could put it on the same way for the new one, so you don't have any problems. Yeah, I tried to use a puller to take that pitman arm off of the gearbox, but I snapped my puller, so I just hit it with a hammer. It came right off, no big deal. Putting it back is the same as taking it off. You just reverse the steps, put it back on. And the thing that I want to talk about is the bleeding procedure, because this is not rack and pinion. You're not going to just want to fill it up and then turn it from lock to lock, back and forth. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to fill up the power steering reservoir until it gets to the top. Then you're going to want to turn the truck on, maybe for 1 second, and then turn it back off. Refill the reservoir. Do that a couple times until the reservoir stays clean. Then turn the truck on and pull the steering wheel to the left, but not all the way to the lock, because on these gearboxes, sometimes if you go lock to lock with no fluid in there and a lot of air, you'll mess up the box and you'll have to redo the box all over again. So don't go lock to lock, go almost to the lock. Let it sit for 3 seconds and then turn it all the way back real slow. And then just do that back and forth until the power steering pump noise goes away and you don't get those jitters in your steering wheel. And then on Fords, it's pretty hard to do to get all the air out of the system. So what you're going to want to do is, after you're done doing it acceptably so that you don't have any real play, you're just going to want to drive it around for a couple days. And within about a week, you'll probably be able to get all the air out of the system. But as long as you don't have those jitters in your steering wheel when you're turning your steering wheel, you should be fine. And that's how you do it. That's how you put the gearbox in these old Fords. Thanks.